For the first time in the West, the house in Fata Morgana finally makes its way to consoles. This is a game that's been on my radar for quite a long time, but for some reason or other I've never really gotten around to playing it. With the release of the Dreams of the Revenants edition on PS4 and PS Vita, I decided to finally bite the bullet and see what all the fuss is about. And I'm so glad I did. If you look at the given synopsis wherever this game is sold, you may feel that it doesn't in any way indicate what the story is actually about, which can make it pretty difficult to judge whether it's a good fit for you. This isn't done as a cryptic marketing ploy to garner your attention. The simple fact of the matter is that this is an incredible adventure that unfolds gradually from many perspectives to build its overarching plot, and to explain its story would almost require a complete recap of the entire game. To put it in the simplest terms, at its heart, this game is a tale of the brutality of human nature and the tragedy it brings. Beginning this game is perhaps the hardest aspect of the entire adventure to swallow. As I've said, this is a tale that unravels gradually from multiple perspectives, and as is the case with such stories, becoming acquainted with the world and its characters is something that requires patience. When a game like this offers little indication of the direction, it can be very difficult to give it the trust it needs to show its worth. Furthermore, the way the first few chapters are presented make it seem like some sort of anthology series similar to American Horror Story or True Detectives. While these individual stories were certainly entertaining and filled with their own thrilling twists, it can be a bit rough to digest because beyond some recurring characters, there's little to indicate that they're in any way related. Thankfully, this is the only negative comment I have to make about this game, and it's something that doesn't even deserve to be referred to as negative, because once you make it past these seemingly individual stories and begin to get an overall sense of the plot, you start to realise that everything you've experienced in this game has had meaning, and unbeknownst to you at the time, you've started to care about these incredibly real characters and hope for them to be relieved of their tragedies. I don't want to speak too lengthily about what the story involves because, in a sense, the true nature of the entire story would be considered a spoiler, and uncovering it from shifting perspectives and finding answers to the constantly mystery-riddled plot is such an alluring aspect of this game. What I will say, however, is that this is perhaps one of the best visual novels I've ever played, and I consider it an absolute must for any visual novel fan. It has the ability to make you care about these characters, hope for their well-being, only to face utter despair alongside them when they face the tragedy of human nature. Through the many turning points of the story, you'll be beaten over the head with your own hopes for the classic happy ending. You'll grieve and mourn, and when it's over, you'll have that emptiness that any person who's experienced a truly great story knows all too well. It seems greedy to ask for any more perfection beyond what the story already offers, but Fata Morgana delivers it on another front. The soundtrack. I've never been one to show high appreciation for soundtracks in games, but in my first day playing this, at some point I found myself so utterly bewitched by the background music that I'd completely stopped playing the game without realising. I was just staring at the screen entranced by this hauntingly beautiful melody. When I realised I'd stopped, the first thought that came to my mind is, this is the sort of soundtrack you look back on in nostalgia. And even though it's barely been a day since I finished, that's already ringing true for me. It's not just a matter of it being nice music though, it's so much more than that. The soundtrack is the perfect fit for every aspect of the game. It accentuates the beauty of the images and supports the art of the storytelling. This ethnically diverse music, spanning multiple languages and nationalities, is possibly the most perfect example I've counted that showcases the power music has to convey emotions and elicit an appropriate response. Thankfully, seemingly aware of the high quality of the soundtrack, the Dreams of the Revenants edition includes a sound library, where you can listen to all these tracks as you please, even taking it a step further to include the lyrics so that you can attempt to sing along, and an English translation so you can understand the meaning behind them. It should be noted, however, that, except for the Reincarnation sequel, this game is not voiced at all. This didn't help with the rough introduction chapters, but quickly became completely irrelevant to me since the soundtrack more than makes up for it. Onto the imagery, Fata Morgana offers a unique style of graphics, ditching the typical anime-styled images typical of a visual novel and instead opting for a presentation more fitting for a gothic mansion of tragedy through the ages. Befitting of a hauntingly stunning story and soundtrack, the imagery of this game offers a perfect fit to tie it all together with a delicate design that serves to match the atmosphere perfectly. In this edition, the images have all been updated, refurbished, or in some cases remade entirely. I only played a little of the original for the sake of comparison, so those with an attachment to the old version may not agree with me entirely, but I personally believe the new graphics are nothing short of an improvement. They feel incredibly inviting for newcomers and far clearer than the old format. The Dreams of the Revenants edition also includes an updated user interface, enhancements to effects, and in the case of the PS4 version, 4K resolution. Beyond improvements, this version includes more than the base game by also including the A Requiem of Innocence prequel, a brand new sequel never released in English named Reincarnation, and a collection of short stories that adds hours of content to flesh out some of the events from the main game. The original game is already about 40 hours long, so with the almost full visual novel sized editions, I firmly believe this is a collection that provides a massive amount of content for its price. I won't be saying anything on the prequel and sequel in this video though, since it would be impossible to do it without spoiling the events of the first game, so if you're a returning player interested in hearing my thoughts on them, I'll be uploading some separate videos shortly. Having heard nothing but praise over the years, I came into this game with high expectations. I don't know what took me so long to finally give it the attention it deserves. Maybe it was the outdated graphics, maybe it was the vague synopsis, or maybe it was the fear that my expectations couldn't possibly be met after seeing so much praise. What I do know is that I'm so glad I finally took the plunge and played it, because this is the sort of story that stays with you for a lifetime. It's depressing, it's miserable, but it's also one of the most entrancing experiences I've ever found in any type of media. I consider this to be a must-read for any visual novel fan, and if you're still on the fence and not sure whether it's the right fit for you, I recommend just doing what I did and trust the praise, because this is a story you need to experience in your lifetime.